Hard Ticket to Hawaii. It has it all. The awesome, pristine beauty of the land, the warm caress of perfect beaches, the tantalizing wetness of the blue Pacific. Hawaii. It's a great place to visit, but you wouldn't want to die there.
Did you grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV. They're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV. They're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Hello, and welcome back to another Loose Cannon. And we've been talking the last few episodes about how we've been wanting to get to Hard Ticket to Hawaii and Picasso Trigger, and it looks like we finally did it after a couple of weeks of false starts. We finally got around to doing it, and we've got the round table here of myself, Alex the producer. We have my co-host in Guelph.
That's right. It would be me, Mike the Birdman, who literally just finished watching Picasso Trigger about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and I have some concerns.
And our resident Andy Sidaris movie expert,
Aaron Pollyea.
Welcome. So, my background with this is I had seen Hard Ticket years ago, but never seen Picasso Trigger. So I did a cursory scan through of parts that I was maybe a little hazy on Hard Ticket, and then watched a full Picasso Trigger today. I think Mike said that he had never seen either, really, right? And so you watched both today. And then we have Aaron, who has seen it many times.
Many times. Hard Ticket, many times, dozens of times. And Picasso Trigger, at least a few, let's say. I don't want to say as much as 10, but I've seen it a few times.
Okay, so I guess we should start with what the hell with our ticket. There's been internet memes about the snake and different things here and there, where especially some of the line deliveries. But I had forgotten there was a theme song.
Yeah, Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm sorry for mauling that, but
you know what? Whoever recorded it was doing their best Peter Cetera of the late era of Chicago, trying to do the theme song for that.
And it's also a little weird to have a theme, at least this early on in Andy Sidaris' collection, to not be sung by Cynthia Brimhall. The woman who plays Edie actually has a very good singing voice, and ends up singing a lot of the music in the later movies, up until she leaves the series, I think in, it's not Do or Die. She's in Do or Die, and she's in Guns. I want to say it's, her last one was, now I'm going to have to look it up. I don't remember it offhand. But yeah, Cynthia Brimhall is actually a good singer, and shows off her singing talent in some of these movies.
And outside of that, it has very distinct, like, you'll hum the incidental music probably forever in your dreams or nightmares. Do 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 do. I found this to be more tongue-in-cheek even than Malibu Express was. Also, maybe you can explain the connections to that film. Like, we know there's posters in it, and some people are related to other people from that film.
Yeah. There's movie posters up in Donna and Taryn's house that's right next to the Malibu, the Molokai Cargo airstrip. And it turns out that Malibu Express, the movie that was before this, was made into a movie, and it starred Cody Abilene as himself in that movie. So he kind of became famous, and he's off doing movies and TV shows on the mainland. And Taryn has a big crush on him. Taryn is played by Hope Marie Carlton, another playmate, and she's like a big movie buff. She quotes James Bond all the time, but she's not really a spy. She's there because she's in witness protection, and it turns out that she has a certain set of skills and is useful to the CIA in what they're doing in Hawaii. But yeah, that's one of the connections. Malibu Express, the actual boat, makes an appearance in this film. There is a character that is supposed to be the cousin of Cody Abilene from Malibu Express. His name is Rowdy Abilene. And much like every Abilene, every member of the Abilene family, he can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Because you can't shoot anything that's moving, right?
Well, in this, I believe Rowdy cannot hit anything unless it's with a rocket launcher.
Because, of course.
Yeah, of course. And there is a rocket launcher in this movie, and it is used copiously, and it is brilliant.
I was going to say, one thing I noticed about this film is almost every death is an explosion.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining. Almost every death is an explosion. Like, let's get the basic plot in quotes out of the way first. Yeah.
Do you want me to do it, or?
Yeah, because radioactive snake and also.
Yeah. So the Molokai cargo girls, Taryn and Donna, are hired to transport a snake, but also a couple tourists to their honeymoon location. Well, it turns out they get the wrong snake, or they get the wrong box loaded into their Cessna Skyhawk. FYI, the Cessna Skyhawk appears in most of the early Andy Sidaris films. Side note, that same airplane, by the way, since I'm an airplane person as well, is theoretically still alive, but it got exported to Australia, which is a shame, because that should.
So what you're telling me is you were looking to buy it at one point, is what you're saying?
Yes. My brothers actually want to buy a small plane like that, but I actually
you were hoping you wanted to get that one so you could like brand it and like and wear like hats and shirts and everything
with Molokai cargo on it. Yeah. So they get the snake loaded into their plane, and they fly off to Molokai, and they drop these tourists off, and the snake gets off the plane. All right. Well, you'd think that this snake is a giant part of the plot, because one of the side characters is the controller, who was in Seven, and he constantly is trying to get a hold of the girls, because this snake is a cancer-ridden snake that has been fed on, that only feeds on diseased, cancer-ridden rats. So this snake looks like something out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it just kind of disappears for most of the film. It pops up every now and then, but it's not really a part of the film. But it pays off later. Well, while they're dropping off these tourists, the girls end up coming across a diamonds for cocaine deal gone wrong. And they end up grabbing all these diamonds out of a remote-controlled helicopter.
There's a lot of remote-controlled everythings in his films, aren't there?
Yes, there's at least one in every film, if I recall. He has a real thing for remote-controlled airplanes, cars, that kind of stuff, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, hijinks ensue. The criminals are trying to get back these diamonds. They start kidnapping some of the girls or assaulting them. Edie, who is played by Cynthia Brimhall, is kidnapped. The boys are called in to help Donna and Taryn, and they're not really that much of a help, but they do end up killing Skateboard Dude, who has one of the best deaths in any of these films by getting killed by a rocket launcher while holding a blow-up doll.
And that's one of the ones that made like the rounds on the internet and became like a huge meme for a long time, and probably still pops up now and then on different Reddits and subforums.
Oh, absolutely. So they end up rescuing Edie in a giant gunfight at the criminal's house, and it's this big epic showdown, and they're driving away, and Edie is the smart one, and she goes, hey, what about Josh, who is the actual big villain? And they realize they never got the big bad guy, and they kind of look at each other like, it's freaking, how did we not realize this? And then there is the second showdown where Josh ends up going back to Taryn and Donna's bungalow, and he is killed like 6 times. It's kind of like the ending of Lord of the Rings, but it's hilarious. And then the snake explodes out of the toilet that you have completely forgotten about for the whole film, bites him in the face, and they have to kill it with a rocket launcher at close range. Roll credits. It is an amazing film. I'm not doing it justice, folks. It is nonstop wacky craziness.
And the dialogue in this. Oh boy.
There are so many good one-liners in this film. The first one is, let's hit the jacuzzi. I do my best thinking in there. And it's just an excuse to get 2 playmates topless playing with diamonds in a jacuzzi.
There's also just on top of the lines, it's some of the delivery, like the frisbee scene after he kills somebody with the razor blade frisbee. It sets on him, and he just goes oh yeah, and like fist pumps. It's odd little things you would like a 10-year-old would write into a movie.
Yeah.
But what was it? You got a nice ass. You too, Pilgrim.
Yeah. If
like,
brains were bird shit, you'd have a clean cage.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's just so many. Mike, what do you think as far as some of the dialogue in this? Were you throwing up the what the fuck hands the whole time?
One that caught my attention specifically is, if you're going down on her, you're going to run into the back of my head first.
Oh,
that stuck out of my head.
Yeah, if you go down on her, you'll be kissing my ass because I'll already be in there.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
wow.
oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
Nothing super offensive. Oh no, wait, best seat in the house. Why don't you sit on my face? Why is that bigger than your dick? Was yet another choice piece of dialogue.
Or when the director shows up for his own scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the girl's like, you practically raped me last night. And he goes, that was last night, baby. This is today.
This is today, and I'm all about your mind. I'm all about your mind. I don't care about your body anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's just as offensive as the line would be and how it was delivered, it's how it was played off specifically for laughs and the timing of it. That you're like, okay, you can see they were doing this as a joke, but oh my god.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly today, but it is definitely a joke, and it's played for laughs, and it seems like everybody's in on it and just having fun. But it is a pretty offensive joke nowadays.
Oh yeah, but you know what? I don't mind seeing them in films like this, especially when it would be much more out of place if the whole film wasn't batshit insane.
Yes.
Like if that was just put into a regular movie, you'd be like, what did he just say? But because it is what it is, and it's being delivered by the director himself. It's so odd. Now I noticed in it as I was watching and catching up that there was the Canadian TV's Tarzan in it in a medium, not quite minor role. Wolf Larson, he's the blonde guy. He's on the boat at the end of the film as well. And he also appears in the next film. I didn't know. I just never put 2 and 2 together. Like for Mike and I growing up as kids, that Tarzan show was in reruns forever.
Okay.
It only ran a couple years, I think 2 or 3 years, but it was one of those shows that every Canadian channel seemed to be required to air it after school. So if you were a kid in Canada from 1990 to like 97, that show is like permeated into your mind.
Yeah, and see, I've never seen that. I've never seen it, but
It's a half-hour action show in the similar vein to like a Zorro or a lot of those syndicated, like I'm trying to think, was it like Hercules and Xena?
Sure, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was like French Canadian cast except for him, and then filmed somewhere, I think in Africa as a co-production.
Wow.
So it was. I think, I might be wrong, but I think it's one of the last shows produced where like a regular cast member was a chimpanzee, because I don't think they either have the patience or, a lot of times the ability to even use a lot of animals in roles like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cheetah character's in every episode as like a main character. I can't imagine how hard that was, but it's just, that's what popped into my mind. I'm like, hey, it's Tarzan. But then if you were to tell, again, most Americans, they'd be like, what do you mean? Like, your version of Tarzan was from like the 30s.
Yeah.
or maybe the early 80s when they did the one with the Highlander guy. But like, for us, I was like, oh, it's Tarzan. He's in that. What's he doing there? I don't know. Was there anything else, Michael, that stood out to you? Like, does it hold up to the hype of the internet, meme worthiness?
One of the things that I noticed, and maybe Aaron and I can talk about this a little bit because Aaron's more of a gun guy. Andy Sidaris has a really weird fascination with certain guns, especially with I think it was one of the male characters used a handgun that I've never seen before, with something slapped onto the barrel. And it struck me as just really odd.
Okay.
It was nice to see the use of an Uzi, which I thought that was pretty cool. And that's another thing that carries into Picasso trigger. That seems to be Taryn's choice of weapon. The rocket launcher at close range, you're asking to die. Because no, you don't shoot a snake with a rocket launcher, just physics first off. And yeah, that was amusing. It does hold up in terms of meme worthiness, because the guy on the skateboard now, I don't know if that skateboarder was like anybody famous. The only person I could think of that could pull that off reliably might be Rodney Mullen, who's like a freestyle skateboarder who is known for doing like kind of handstands and shit like that.
Yeah.
And he would have been about the right age for this, but I'm 99% sure that it's not him. If it is somebody famous, I'm sure someone will correct us somewhere. But yeah, blowing up a guy with a rocket launcher, then blowing up a blow-up doll with a rocket launcher. Holy shit. Killing a snake with a rocket launcher. Holy shit. The guys can't hit shit in these movies. One thing I did find the use of the harpoon gun to kill the one guy who was trying to kill Donna. Josh, yeah, trying to kill her. I thought that was really interesting, how she basically spears him. That guy is fucked up and he won't die.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I did like how she got wounded, because one of the things I've been doing recently is I watch a lot of knife fighting videos, because like I've got a Cold Steel recon knife, and I've got a Karen bit that Alex has seen me spinning for the last few weeks. So
I'm always terrified, but it is like a practice one.
Yeah, it is a practice one, and I'm just noticing one of the things people don't realize about knife fighting is when you fend off an attacker, there's a good chance you're going to get defensive wounds. And when Donna is holding this guy to get him off of her, she's taking really deep cuts to her hand, and she's able to fight through it and just kick the ever-living shit out of this guy. So I was really happy that a lot of the female leads in this were tremendously strong, although if unnecessarily topless at times. But yeah, other than that, though, I feel like this movie is a fairly entertaining watch. I think in terms of how it looks fairly great. If you're a big film nut, you can recognize some of the shots from Jurassic Park in this, where they're flying the Molokai Express airplane. They're flying over some pretty big places in Hawaii that my wife has been by. There's a scene of a waterfall, and I'm 90% sure that's in the first Jurassic Park.
And remember, this is before Jurassic Park.
Yeah, by like almost 10 years, because this was 87, Jurassic Park was I think 92, so maybe filmed in 91. So it'd be really funny if Steven Spielberg was inspired by this. I so doubt it, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, overall, this was a fairly decent B movie. It was entertained. Everybody was fairly likable. Canadian Tarzan. And I was happy to see a variety of different weapons used, although the rocket launcher being the star of the show.
Yeah, and the rocket launcher's obviously fake.
Oh, God, yeah.
But all the other weapons are actually real things. I think the gun that you were talking about is the one
The
that
handgun, right?
that Donna uses right at the end, right? That giant revolver.
Yeah.
That's a Dan Wesson Model 15 VH revolver. I had to look that up. I think I looked it up months and months ago when I rewatched this again, because I'm like, man, that's a big gun. Yeah, it's not one that you generally see a lot. There's like a Luger, like a World War II era Luger in this that's used. There's a Beretta, I think. There's an Edison Gallicotti in this. The Uzi, like you said. The rifle that they have is an AR-7. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, I have a couple other points, I guess. The guy that plays Josh, the villain in this, ends up appearing in a lot of future Andy Sidaris films. He doesn't have huge parts. He's always generally playing a villain, but he's a decent actor. He does his stuff well. And the other actor that I wanted to mention is Michael A. Andrews. I know that I've talked about Michael a few times before because Michael appeared in such, glorious films as Avenging Angel, as the drag queen in Avenging Angel, and as Stuart Chamberlain in Malibu Express. He appeared here in Hard Ticket to Hawaii as, once again, a very passable woman. And then only 2 other films before he died in 1989.
So that's right, because I noticed his makeup was actually really good then.
Yeah, very passable woman.
Now, I think the meme-worthy status of it has maybe made it so that people think that they've seen this film, but they've only seen like bits and pieces. There's more of a plot to this movie than I was expecting initially. Now, I would say, as far as in the pantheon of the Sidaris movies, it's probably going to be his most well-known, right?
Yeah, I would agree. It's his most well-known. Yeah.
How did it score on your point system?
Ooh, I have to bring up my points. It got 37, and that's actually really pretty high. Anything above 30 generally says this is kind of a crazy movie to watch, for good or ill. And this is a good bad movie. This is nothing but fun to watch. Every scene has something crazy or weird or sexy in it. Yeah, there's unnecessary nudity, and there is unnecessary nudity, but it's all tastefully done. There's nothing too over the top. These women are obviously playmates. Most of the women that are naked are playmates. It's also clear that Andy Sidaris doesn't force every actress in his movies at this point to get naked, because there are many beautiful women in these movies that don't take their tops off. So don't think you're coming into like a skeevy nudie type B movie, because it's not. At least in my opinion, I've seen much skeevier B movies.
Yeah, this isn't a Cinemax film.
Yeah. One of the films that we watched before, the Immortalizer, I thought actually had skeevier nudity in it than this.
Yes.
And let's not talk about Malabimba, but
yeah, well, we won't do that.
Wow.
European films are weird.
I absolutely love Hard Ticket to Hawaii. It's probably my favorite Andy Sidaris film. I'm not saying it's the best one, but it's my favorite one.
Okay, so I mean that's probably all we need to say on that. Now, Picasso Trigger is This is the first time I've seen that film. Michael, have you seen it before?
Nope. I didn't even know this guy existed until you guys told me about it.
Oh,
okay.
I guess you probably would have only heard of Hard Ticket just from its internet notoriety.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. I mean, watching this one I found a little hard to follow. Mind you, I will admit I was doing like college emails at the same time, but I do like a lot of the leads in this, and I was so happy that Donna and Taryn came back. Taryn's probably my favorite character. I just really like her. I think Donna, she's strong, but in this one she's a little more jealous because of a thing that happens a little bit kind of later on. Also, I love the name of one of the other characters, Pantera.
Oh yeah, that's Roberta Vasquez. She actually is one of the good guys in future movies that works beside Donna.
Okay.
And that's one thing that we should mention is this is sort of like the old school, like almost like RKO Pictures, where you'd have a stable of actors that do every one of your movies, and you just interchange parts and roles.
Yes,
that's sort of what he did. He would reuse a vast majority of the same actors. Sometimes they're good guys, sometimes they're bad guys. But I don't believe he ever did the thing where like it's two different actors on the movie played the same roles but reversed on like another film, like with the same names or anything.
No, he didn't do that. One thing I should say also about Roberta Vasquez, she was actually approached first by Andy Sidaris to be in the part of Donna.
Oh, okay.
But she was pregnant at the time and had to say no. So she was continually approached by Andy Sidaris until she was happy enough with leaving the house and because she was taking care of the kid, and I want to get into shape again and make sure that I look good for the screen. And he's like, no problem, but you just come to me when you want to be a part of one of my films. And she did, and here she is.
Well, that's cool. So it is almost like a stable or family of actors.
Yes.
Now, the plot here is... And actually, wait, the actual filming of this looked more like a regular movie. It actually looked less B-movie-ish for a lot of the shots. Like, I know they're using a lot of stock footage when they're trying to show off, like, Paris and places. But this was closer to, like, a James Bond, I think, than the previous films have been in its basic plot line. Now, so this is about drug cartels and just sort of control over the underground. It was like art trade and other things. Like there's a lot going on here. So why don't you give us the skinny on it?
Okay. In general, Picasso Trigger is a painting of a fish. That's what I can break it down to. That's easy. And it's featured right in the beginning of the film. It's also this guy's code name, this kind of villain. And he's killed right in the beginning of the film, right? Well, Pantera is having to figure out, like, she's kind of like one of the bad guys, but it turns out that, like, Picasso Trigger might not be dead. And they're trying to, these bad guys that Picasso Trigger was fighting against are trying to kill Donna and Taryn. And, well, they're out on a sailboat kind of off Molokai, and they're just they decide to go for an early morning swim after taking a brief nude shower. And
as we all do, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. I will say that he held back because Hope Marie Carlton is Taryn. She doesn't actually get nude in that scene. She's just kind of lounging around in beautiful lingerie. Anyway, they dive off the boat. These assassins hit their boat with a radio-controlled Zero, which I thought was, wow, that's pretty hardcore that you're kamikazing a Zero into a boat in Hawaii. That's kind of a bold statement to be making, sir.
Yeah. Question: Do you think he was thinking of that?
Yes, because the guy that was controlling the RC controller put on a kamikaze headband.
Oh, that's right.
So I was like, that's bold. That's bold.
Yeah.
There's some good one-liners in this movie. Well, that was like my next note that I had after the sailboat getting blown up. They're able to get back to like Edie's resort area and shower off, and there's these hunky guys, and Taryn has this one line: "Is that a snorkel in your pocket, or are you happy to see me?" And Donna looks over. It's a snorkel, Taryn. Because this guy does have a snorkel in his pocket. Anyway, I thought that was hilarious. Standard Andy Sidaris hijinks ensue. There's lots of hunting down the bad guys, escaping from dangerous situations. There's some hot tub action. Cynthia Brimhall is in this as Edie. Guy gets his eyes ripped out. What else can I say? It's an Andy Sidaris film. If you haven't heard us talk about Andy Sidaris, you don't know what we're talking about. But there's some great deaths and a big shootout at the end. That's a lot of fun. And then kind of a weird ending that leaves open kind of a Bond-ish sequel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also, I don't know if does Andy Sidaris appear in all of his films, but he seems to have appeared in every one so far we've seen.
He doesn't appear in all of them because he's not very healthy near the end, but he's in most of them.
Because in this one, he plays golf with Canadian Tarzan, and has the whole movie is supposed to be taken seriously, and then they play this like hokey, almost Benny Hill type music when he goes to take a shot, and it's a magical shot that he just does perfect because he's the director.
Yeah, and it's played off as being that hokey, like there's no way that this actually would work in real life.
Yeah, it's like magical realism just because he's in it.
Yeah,
which is it's like a total ego boost. But I'm like, okay, fine. You're making your own movie. You want to be a superhero in your movie, and your superpower is that you're great at golf against all these better looking people. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed this. This is the last time we see the professor, the guy that was the controller in the previous movie, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and he was also the professor in Seven.
Yeah, with all the rocket launching sort of stuff.
Yeah. Which
by the way, in this film there is a rocket rocket launching a crutch like you would have if you broke your leg, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the control mechanism is a dollar store calculator that they pretend to program like it's an actual computer, and you can even see that it's one of those like wallet or like pocket calculators. Yeah,
it's a digital calculator. I mean, it looked high tech for the time, right? I don't know. Actually,
but they pretended to type in like coordinates, and all they did was like type like 10 plus 10.
Yeah. I think the craziest kind of gadget that they had in it was a boomerang that literally had C4 just strapped to it.
That's the worst kind of weapon, because if you throw it and it misses, it comes right back.
I know.
There is one moment in this that's so, I guess, like I said, Andy Sidaris runs on video game logic, where the guy, I think with the rocket crutch, tries to attack the big bad guy, and he just randomly has a shield pop up in front of him at one point where it blocks the attack. And I was like, he's got a second health bar. That's fascinating.
And he has a secret shotgun built into a security camera.
Yeah, but this is definitely some Metal Gear Solid shit right here. So yeah, I again found it fascinating. Also, I will say this one had a much better chase sequence in it with the boat scene. I thought that was really, really, really well done. Although Pantera has a really weird rifle at one point where she shoots one of the bad guys with it. And again, I've never seen this weapon before. Which I thought
the closest, it reminded me, like, it looked like a hand pistol. It looked like the gun that the Joker uses in the 89 Batman movie.
It's almost like the Golden Gun, but made into a rifle, because it was put together with various components.
So are you talking about the
barge gun she was using?
The barge gun. See, there's the gun.
She pieces it together when they're doing the chase.
Yeah, and then she can just like
Oh, that's a Ruger
snipe.
1022.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's just a 22 rifle basically.
Oh, okay. Well,
It
she's an
just
amazing
looks
sniper
odd.
with it. Yeah, just because I've never seen that color combination on a weapon. Like, I'm used to everything being gunmetal or being like a very muted color. I've just never seen one.
Or are you talking? Okay,
painted
you're talking about the one that Pantera uses. That's an AR-7. That's just the same thing that was in Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Wow, I didn't recognize it
But
like
was it
at all.
then it was like painted white though?
Yeah, that's what threw me off about it because I'd never seen. The only time I've ever seen spray painted guns is either when assholes have too much money or in Call of Duty. So that kind of caught me. Although the old guy, I think LG, loved his revolver. I thought that was great, and how he took down the guy in the boat with like one shot, whereas the other guy he was working with couldn't hit shit. And again, just never seen the weapon that he was using before because it just had a really long barrel on it that I've just never seen.
You should have seen the gun that Edie actually uses in this film. It's actually a Sterling Mark IV submachine gun that is mocked up to be exactly like the blaster from Star Wars.
I don't remember that. I kind of want to go back and rewatch that sequence.
Yeah,
again.
it's where Edie busts through the wall.
That's oh my god, you weren't kidding.
Yeah, no, it's a submachine gun, but it's mocked up to look exactly like the Blastech E11 blaster rifle.
Wow, so Edie uses a stormtrooper rifle. That's fucking fantastic.
There's two different kinds of Uzis in this film. See, we're talking guns because Mike wants to talk about guns. There's like two types of Uzis in this. There's a Carbiner 98 in this, which is well, to me that's a World War II gun, just because I do World War II reenacting. Yeah, there's lots of weird guns in this.
Yeah, like I said, I would love to have a conversation or just to see what the weapons master had access to in this. But I loved how it was a nice piece of continuity, how Taron continues to use the Uzi. And I saw that in a lot of movies in the 1980s. Like the Uzi was very, very, very popular in like movies. I mean, one of the most famous appearances of the Uzi would be in The Terminator, where he's going to the gun store asking for Uzi 9mm, and then he shoots like Sarah Connor with it.
Phase plasma rifle with a 20-watt range.
Yeah. So I was just like so happy, just like you maintain that little bit of character continuity. And for people like me who probably care a little too much about this sort of thing, it is a nice touch to keep that with the character from film to film. So yeah, I mean, other than that, like I said, this movie operates a lot on video game logic with harpoons with explosives attached to them. That was insane.
The boomerangs.
Oh, and there was a Call of Duty moment in this where they hook up explosives to an RC car.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, they do that in Call of Duty Black Ops 1. Neat. But I guess the idea had to come from somewhere. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? But yeah, I mean, this one was enjoyable. I liked almost all the characters in this. Like I said, big fan of Donna and Taron. Love their chemistry together. There's something about the charisma with Taron's actress. You said Hope Marie Carlton?
Yes, Hope Marie Carlton.
I love just how bubbly and happy she is, even when things are kind of shitty. I just really kind of dig that. Donna came off to me as a little bit more of a bitch in this one. And I don't know, I didn't like her as much. Pantera was surprisingly fun too. Really, really liked her. I mean, I think if anything, with the Sidaris movies, almost every female person or actress or whatever is really, really likable. I mean, Edie, I liked having her in this as well. I don't know, like he builds an interesting film universe and he builds his characters up where you get just enough of them that you like them. They maintain that, but they grow throughout each kind of movie too. Because in the first Hard Ticket to Hawaii, I felt Taron was maybe not as competent as she was in this. I mean, hell,
she's growing.
Yeah, she's growing. I think at one point she almost gets shot or does get shot, but it hits like her vest, and then like she pumps the guy with her Uzi when he comes to finish her off. And I don't know, just like I said, really liked her for the majority of these two films, and probably is a highlight for me with these so far. Also, another thing to mention too is the incidental music is really suiting of the time period. It's not obnoxious, definitely B-movie-esque, but it suits it, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, and even the theme songs for both kind of movies work. And I think we've talked about this. I know me and Alex have talked about it before. When movies have their own theme songs, they'll either use them appropriately or use them to death. I think Sidaris walks a fine line between knowing when to use them and when to not. I also noticed his use of title sequences is really clever, at least in the 3 movies of his that I've seen, which I've now seen: Malibu Express, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and this one. And there's always something unique with them. And even the like end sequences, I like.
Yeah, he works them into the scene they're in, which was neat. You don't see a whole lot of that nowadays, and it sort of lends into the James Bondy sort of aspect, where the last one with Hard Ticket, it was all crates because it was all about shipping the snake. And in this one, I do like that. Something about the aesthetic of just the very bold colors, like instead of a black background with scrolling text, it's he's doing it like old school title cards, almost like you would do on like silent films.
Yeah, I think his title sequences get a little more standard as time goes on. I will say that, but I think that these two movies do stand out as being very unique and having their own voice even in the credits.
Yes, for sure. So how did this one end up rating on your point scale?
Less, but that doesn't mean it's a worse movie. I actually think this is a more competently made film than Hard Ticket to Hawaii. This got 21 points instead of 37, so a lot less, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually a pretty good B movie. It just has less nudity than Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Who would have thought? It has less crazy deaths. It has less one-liners, but they're still all pretty good. I mean, the movie is pretty good. It's worth watching over and over again, in my opinion. But if for other people, I would suggest, you know what? Hey, if you want to watch this film, it's worth watching even by yourself. But this is great to watch with a group.
For sure. Now, when this film ends, the very last frame, like when the credits are finished, it pops up saying that they're all going to return in a film that, as far as I can tell, never existed, called November Down.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, that became the name of the production company that produced Savage Beach and whatever the next film was.
Guns.
Yeah. So was this the case of that was the original title and they changed it? Or did they scrap a title entirely?
I'm actually not really sure about that.
Because I couldn't find anything online.
Yeah, no, I honestly don't know. I don't think that Andy Sidaris was really making plans that far in advance for these films.
So maybe he did.
Thoughts.
Maybe he did plan for this, and he's like, "Well, screw it. We'll just name the production company that so we can get tax credits."
Yeah, I mean, the November Down doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to have any real connection to Savage Beach, which is the next movie.
Or maybe because it's also the production company for Guns, so maybe Guns was supposed to be the next one.
Maybe
Because I looked, and it's not an alternate title to any of the films. It's not like in any country either.
Yeah, it's
so like, and they went through the trouble of making a title card for it at the end of the film. So I was like, they obviously were doing something.
And I will say, Mike, I'm very sorry, but Savage Beach, the next film, is the last one that has Hope Marie Carlton in it.
Oh, that disappoints me. Is she playing the same character, though?
Yes.
Then that's okay.
Donna and Taryn They're both in it. Yeah, Patty Cakes, the character Patty Cakes, is in it as well. She was in Hard Ticket and Picasso Trigger.
And she was one of the Vegas dancers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Patty Cakes. Yeah.
Was she the blonde or the brunette? She was the brunette, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's the last time Hope Marie Carlton is in it, and then it kind of becomes it becomes the whole whatchamacallit. Now I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Roberta Vasquez kind of takes the place who played Pantera in Picasso Trigger. She kind of takes the role of Taryn, but not as Taryn. She plays her own character. I think Taryn goes back to work for the CIA or something like that. That's what they end up mentioning, like on the mainland.
And there were in the credits 2 different people with the last name Abilene.
Yes.
So is it like a whole family of spies? Is that the idea behind this?
Yes, and then it's later on, I think it's mentioned in Guns that the Abilene family is just far too large and it must be a code name.
Oh, so okay, because that would make sense.
I don't think it started off that way. Because the first 2, like Cody Abilene from Malibu Express, is supposed to be the cousin of the Abilene, this rowdy Abilene, who's in Hard Ticket to Hawaii. They are supposed to be cousins. And then Picasso Trigger has Travis Abilene and LG Abilene, but I don't think they're supposed to be blood related.
So it's like how James Bond is actually a code name.
Yeah. Does that make sense, everybody? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Everybody in Picasso Trigger looked like Kirk Cameron, which it was hilarious how many people had mullets. It's like you could see the transition in hairstyles in his films.
Yes.
Now, the next 2, we're going to sort of wind down here. These, again, they can all be purchased, either for streaming or you can get them. I think they're like, what, $7 on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
Go for it. And as far as the next time that we talk about the Andy Sidaris films, we're going to be covering, I guess, the next 2, which would be Savage Beach and Guns, you said, right?
Savage Beach and Guns.
Now, it's probably not one of those, but isn't there one film in all these series where he didn't direct it?
It's right near the end.
Was that one? Was it
Savage Beach? Is it,
or was it Enemy Gold or something?
Could be Enemy Gold. I'd have to look.
So I'm guessing, which is weird because you figure he would have done everything. So I guess this is when everything is going full steam ahead, where he had a picture like almost every year, right?
Yeah,
his first batch.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Savage Beach and Guns, these 2 movies will straddle the line between 1989 and like 1990. So it's just a year, but the styles in the movies are very different. Like you've said before, you can tell the eras in which these movies are made. And they change fairly quickly.
Okay, so I guess we can look forward to that. I'm not sure when we're going to record, but it might be next week. It might be the week after. But do you have any final thoughts, Michael?
I thought these were okay. I mean, I'm not as in love with them with Aaron or as Aaron is, but I wonder if that's a byproduct of my mood. But definitely enjoyed it.
I do think you have to be in a very open and calm mind to really enjoy every aspect of this. I had a pretty good time, but I sort of knew what I was expecting too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had a lot of fun with like some of the weird little bits of gun porn. For me, obviously, Hope Marie Carlton is probably one of my. I'm actually looking her up on my phone right now. I found her old Playboy spreads. Wow. And even now
he had a tendency to use Playmates in almost everything.
Well, it's like she is really, really pretty. And even now, she's like 56 years old. She's still quite pretty.
Do you know what she kind of reminded me of watching? Like her face? What's her name from According to Jim that plays the wife?
I've actually
and
never seen that show. Couldn't tell you.
She was in Summer School and a bunch of
Summer
other
School. I
films.
was just gonna say, she looks just like the girl from Summer School.
Yeah. So it was. I was like, it was one of those situations where I'm like, is that the same? No, it's not the same person, but it's that uncanny.
One of the things I will say, just to kind of follow through on this, and then I'll finish my thought. I like how, it's great that he casts a lot of great looking girls in this. And I'm not saying this to be sexist or anything. There's something very unique about the way women in the 1980s looked. And I think Hope Marie Carlton captures exactly that 80s beauty that I've always found really attractive. And I don't know, there's just, and once again,
there was less work done.
Yeah, there was less work done, but with her, it's charisma and attitude. Like with her, I don't believe there's much fake behind the smile. There's one scene at the end of Picasso Trigger. She's talking with all of her agency friends and she's saying, oh, the real one is hanging up at this art museum in Paris. Or is it? And it's just a smile, a smirk, and the attitude. And I find the right people can pull it off where it's just completely disarming. And I think she has this right amount of charisma on screen that I really, really, really appreciate that Andy cast her in this role. So
I agree with you. She has charisma, and it's a shame that she wasn't in more of these. I think Donna has it to a lesser degree, but you're completely right. Hope Marie Carlton has it. In my opinion, Cynthia Brimhall, the person who plays Edie, has it. She can kind of look at the camera and smile, and it doesn't seem faked at all. She's having a good time when she's smiling and dancing on screen or singing. It really comes across as actually her enjoying herself, and that brings an energy to the movies that make it a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah, and I feel like after watching these, we're gonna have to do an episode on that 90s TV show Acapulco Heat. It's basically a copy of the Sidaris movies. That's the show that had Fabio in it. But the most large, ridiculous cast you could ever imagine. It was about a secret agent group that goes by Heat, acronym. And their leader is what's his name? The principal from what was it? Animal House.
Okay.
John Vernon, I think his name was.
Oh yeah. The dean.
Yeah, the dean. And it's basically them going undercover in the exact same sort of. I've watched that show as a kid when it was on reruns. And I'm like, this is basically the same thing. And it's kind of amazing how this came out. These movies came out, and then there's a whole ton of 90s movies that inadvertently or overtly copied them. Like there wasn't, before the Sidaris movies, there were films that were exploitation films, there were films that were B-movie films, but there was nothing that had this feel, and there's a lot that came after that did. So obviously he had some influence on people. We
should also point out, just so everyone knows, that Andy Sidaris was not like biased towards having beautiful women only in his films. The men in his films are very handsome. And
yeah, like if there's an ugly if there's a non-handsome or ugly person in the movie, it's probably him. You're like, who's that ugly guy? It's him.
And he would be the first person to admit it, because if you watch the kind of behind the scenes stuff in these movies, he's very self-deprecating, that he does not mind saying, hey, I'm short, I'm fat, I'm ugly. It's a wonder that I'm able to make films with such beautiful women and men in them and share them with people, and people are enjoying it.
Exactly.
And he's such a charmer when you watch these behind the scenes kind of things, that he's just so excited to be making these films. He's so excited to have these beautiful men and women, and he's shocked that he's able to do these things. He's a little kid, and it comes across. These films are fun. They're wacky. Yeah, they don't have the perfect logic. There's plot holes, absolutely, but it doesn't matter, because you're just here to have fun. It's not a thinking film. But it turns out that when you do watch them, you do end up thinking about it because these characters actually grow and develop over these movies, which you can't say for many modern films that are coming out of Hollywood. There isn't character development, or the director or the writers just don't care. It's clear that everyone cares in these films, and everyone's having fun. Very
true. I think that's probably going to be it for the episode. I don't think we can say more without rambling about it.
Yeah, sorry, I'll ramble about this.
No, yeah, we can go on forever, but that's going to do it for this show. So I guess for all of us here at This Week in Geek, good night, and we'll see you next time on the Savage Beach.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
Charlotte, thank goodness you've decided to come. Charlotte, I'm not just some fast-talking New York television director. I care for you a great deal. Trust me, Charlotte.
You practically raped me last night.
That was last night, Charlotte. This is today.